Very confident this will be the greatest date night in the history. Beautiful night, folks. Tremendous night. People told me, sir, you work too hard, you're too dedicated, you never stop. And that's true. Very true. But I said, you know what? Melania deserves a night out because nobody loves their wife as much as I do. Nobody. So here we are. Fanciest restaurant in the country, best table, best view, and I'm very confident this will be the greatest date night in the history of date nights. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before.
Donald, you say this every time we leave the house, even for the dentist.
Because it's true every time, Melania, every single time. The dentist was a beautiful evening, by the way, underrated date spot. People should try it.
How are we doing tonight, folks? Welcome to, hang on. What's this place called again? Jill had it written down for me somewhere. I had a card. It was in my pocket. Now it's not in my pocket. Could be in the kitchen. Could be in Delaware. Either way, you're here, I'm here. That's the important part, Jack.
Well, this is not a good start, Melania. Not a good start at all.
Is this the waiter?
I'm your food fella, your dining associate. Man, come on. Let me take your order before I forget what I'm doing, which hasn't happened yet, by the way.
It's already happening, Joe. I can see it in your eyes. Half the lights are on. Very dim situation. Okay, Joe, let's keep this very simple. I want the best steak in the building, well done, with ketchup, tremendous ketchup, and maybe a little extra ketchup on the side in case we run into a ketchup emergency, which happens more often than people think, actually.
Steak is well done. And extra mustard. No, I mean ketchup. Okay. And for the missus, the foreign policy?
You mean First Lady? I will have the salmon, lightly seasoned, not cooked like shoe, Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, salmon. Right. Not the shoes. They're different, man. Very different. I used to have a pair of salmon. No, wait, that was a sandwich. Anyway, anything else?
Are you going to write it down or what?
I did, in my head. That's how we did it back in Scranton. No paper, no pens, just up here in the noggin. All right, I'll be back in a time or some amount of time. Could be quick, could be a while. I don't make promises I can't remember, man. Come on.
You see this? You see this, Melania? This is why we say Sleepy Joe. He takes an order and needs a GPS to find the kitchen. Extremely low IQ service. I've gotten better service at a DEI workshop, and I've never even been to one.
Darling, please. He is doing his best, unfortunately.
Now this is romance. Nothing says love like a beautiful Big Mac, the most romantic sandwich ever created, probably.
Donald? Did you seriously bring McDonald's to our date at a fancy restaurant?
Oh, you heard that? No. Totally fake, sweetheart. Fake news from the Democrat dining table. But I didn't bring McDonald's. That would be crazy. Deranged, actually. And I'm not deranged. I'm very stable. Everybody knows that, believe me.
I just watched you take a bite. It is in your hand right now. I am looking at it.
This? No. This is an experimental appetizer. It's very elite. Farm to table. Chef special. People are saying it's incredible. I just got off the phone with the chef, actually. And he said, sir, this is my finest work.
It has a giant yellow M on the box, Donald. That's McDonald's.
That stands for Melania. They made it in your honor. See? Very romantic. I'm very romantic. Nobody loves their wife enough to get a sandwich named after him. But I do, because I'm a charmer, quite frankly.
You are just gaslighting me with a cheeseburger.
I would never gaslight you with a cheeseburger. If anything, I gaslight you with a double cheeseburger. It's much classier that way.
It is good, actually. But I'm still mad at you.
She likes it. She's mad, but she likes it. That's our whole marriage, folks. And it works, believe me.
You know why I am really mad, Donald? It is not only the damn burger.
Oh, no. Here we go.
You forgot Valentine's Day. Again.
Again? Incorrect. Totally incorrect. I did not forget Valentine's Day. I rescheduled it. Very different things. One is forgetting, and the other is executive decision making. And I made an executive order. I mean, decision.
What? You cannot move Valentine's Day, Donald.
I'm the president. I move embassies. I move holidays. I move the entire Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. Moving Valentine's Day is nothing. Very easy, actually. I said, we'll celebrate when the timing is better. And here we are.
I waited. There was no flowers, no chocolate, only you on the television doing another rally and that YMCA dance.
Well, a rally is like 50,000 people saying they love me. That love bounces off them, comes back, and lands on you. It's shared love, Melania. And half the time, the crowds are basically saying they love you too. So it's love by extension. I told you I'm very romantic, okay?
I do not want shared love. I want chocolate. One box for me. And from you.
Okay, we can fix this. I do deals. I fix disasters, natural disasters, political disasters, emotional disasters. I handle all of them. And I'm very confident I can handle this one. So I'm calling reinforcements. Okay, bathroom break. John, it's me, your favorite president. Look, I don't have much time. Please get over here. Fancy restaurant, extremely low IQ waiter. And the wife is mad about Valentine's Day, even though I can just move it around. But I need you in disguise. You're the new waiter.
But, Mr. President, I don't even know if I...
Senator, don't ask questions. Just get over here. Hurry.
Lord have mercy. One phone call and I'm leaving my popcorn and the most recent episode of the Baby News Network to go play dress up at a 5-star restaurant for the president. My mama warned me about Washington, but she did not warn me about this.
Hey, you nugget. That's for table 4.
Come on, man, I'm table 4. We're all table 4. That's the beauty of America, Jack.
Good evening, folks. My name is Jean-Luc Spaghetti. I'll be taking care of y'all this fine evening.
Senator Kennedy, it's you. I can hear Louisiana through your fake Italian.
Well, smack my grits and call me compromised. How'd you figure it out? I thought the stash sealed the deal.
John, the voice gave you away, and the smack my grits gave you away, and the fact that you look exactly like yourself with a mustache taped to your face gave you away. But you're here, and that's what matters. Very loyal. Nobody loves showing up as much as John Kennedy does.
Mr. President, I came as fast as I could. I saw Biden sleeping in the bread rolls on my way in and figured y'all needed adult supervision.
Very true. Mission is simple, John. Maximum romance, impress the First Lady, undo the Valentine's Day disaster. Low margin for error, but I know you're from Congress, so we'll see how it goes.
Ma'am, far as I'm concerned, any woman who can put up with this man deserves a medal, a parade, and a chocolate fountain the size of the Lincoln Memorial.
Finally, someone who understands me.
Careful, John. You're getting very close to treason. I know treason very well. This is close, very close.
Mr. President, I've watched you fight CNN, the deep state, 2 impeachments, and 2 scoops of ice cream at midnight. But if you forget Valentine's Day one more time, that'll be the one battle you don't walk away from. And I say that with love and fear, mostly fear.
Look, Melania, he's right. Maybe, possibly. I get busy saving the country, making deals, keeping the Gulf of America hurricane-free, fighting windmills, which are, by the way, killing the birds, very time-consuming. But I am romantic in my own way, a very unique, very powerful way that most people don't understand because they've never been this important.
Show me. Don't just say.
Compliments of the chef and the guy who told the chef he'd be fired if it wasn't perfect.
See? White House cake with M for Melania. Could have been T for Trump. Very tempting. But I said no. Tonight it's about her. Tremendous sacrifice. Probably the most selfless thing I've ever done.
You are calling not putting your own initial on a cake selfless?
For me, yes. That's enormous, Melania. You don't understand the restraint involved.
It is ridiculous and sweet, like you. Mostly ridiculous.
By the way, we got to talk about your documentary. Melania, the numbers are huge. The biggest numbers for a First Lady project since ever. Everybody's watching it. I just got off the phone with the streaming people, and they said, "Sir, it's breaking records." And I said, "I know, because she's my wife. Of course it's breaking records."
You actually watched it?
The whole thing. No skipping. I even watched the credits. I saw the part where you talked about coming to America, the fashion, the charity work. Tremendous story. So inspiring. And I'm sitting there on the couch thinking, wow, I made a very good deal marrying this one.
You mean falling in love with this one?
Same thing. And it was the best deal I ever made. And I've made legendary deals, deals that changed the world. But this one, top of the list. I'm a total winner.
Did you like the part about raising our son, Baron?
Beautiful part, the best part, actually. I might have shed one tiny, very manly, very strong tear, a powerful tear, not a weak liberal tear, but it was a tremendous American tear that rolled down my face with confidence. And I wiped it away very quickly before anyone even saw.
Well, I'll be. We got ourselves a hallmark moment in the middle of a catastrophe. That's America right there, folks.
Did anybody order lasagna ice cream? No? Well, someone did. I ate it. Come on, man. It was just sitting there. It was calling my name. It said Joe, and I answered. That's called leadership, Jack.
Joe, you're fired from the waiter job, from the kitchen, from being near food in general. You've eaten more than you've served. This whole thing's a disaster.
That's malarkey, man. I was crushing it in there. The chef loves me. We bonded, I think. He was yelling, but in a loving way.
That man clocks out wherever he lands, doesn't he? Like a possum on a porch swing.
Look, Melania, bad waiter, sneaky burger, rescheduled Valentine's Day. I understand the evening had some challenges, but we also had cake, a documentary screening, and you looking very, very beautiful, probably the most beautiful you've ever looked. And the bar was already very high. So I'm calling this date night a tremendous success.
It was chaotic. It was loud. It was completely insane. It was us. I suppose it was a good date.
See? Romantic. Very romantic. People are going to talk about this for years. Biggest date night in presidential history, believe me. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
As your undercover waiter, I officially declare this mission accomplished. The mustache stays on, though. I'm starting to like it.
Remember, folks, take your first lady on a date. Don't let Sleepy Joe serve the food. And if all else fails, bring cake. Tremendous cake. And subscribe to the Baby News Network because your favorite president demands it. God bless America, and God bless Melania for putting up with all of this. Well, thank you very much. Proudly by us, with integrity. Well, thank you very much. This was a meeting set up very proudly by us, having to do with voter integrity and mail-in ballots and stopping the massive cheating that's gone on. And so we're going to be signing an executive order. It's, I believe it's foolproof, and maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf to start off, attorney, a great talent, a very brilliant young man. And if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, two of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are, one, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is, one, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General and the U.S. Postal Service to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then the ballots being returned or being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right. Howard?
So the fundamentals of our democracy are built on voter integrity, right? We all need it. You've said it time and time again. It's a total agreement amongst everybody. So here's the idea. The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want to use the U.S. mail, U.S. Postal Service, they're going to get a code, a barcode from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to put that on the envelope, and we will have one envelope per vote. None of this time where we have no idea, there's no observers to mail, there's no envelopes, there's no certainty. That's all going to go away. And what the president is doing today is he's going to make sure that mail-in ballots are safe, secure, and accurate, and will have a clear distinction. If you voted by mail, you will have it on the envelope, obviously not on the ballot, but on the envelope. So we will know 1 million mail-in ballots. There'll be 1 million envelopes, and you'll be able to know exactly, correctly, that citizens voted.
And this came up with some great legal minds. They looked at the various documents and everything that was going on, because the cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's going on. And it's very clearly covered, very, very clearly. So I think this will help a lot with elections. We'd like to have voter ID. We'd like to have proof of citizenship, and that'll be another subject for another time. We're working on that. You would think it would be easy. It's a 98% issue for Republicans. It's 86%. Thing just came out, a poll, and it's 86% with Republicans and Democrats, not leaders, because the leaders of the Democrats cheat. And the only people that don't want to do voter ID are people that cheat. There's no other reason for it. Proof of citizenship, they want to be able to cheat. There's no reason. They have all sorts of reasons, excuses, but it's all nonsense. They want to cheat. But the Democrats themselves are very high. It's a very positive, very, very good thing. The Democrat voters, the Democrat leaders, guys like Schumer, who are corrupt, they want to use it for cheating because their policy is so bad. Think of their policy, open borders for everybody, where people pour into our country from countries all over the world. Think of that. You look at, just take any issue, take anything. Everything they have is so crazy. But the fact that they don't want to sign voter ID is another issue. It's a big issue. The fact that they don't have proof of citizenship, that they want transgender for everybody, that they want men in women's sports. So the only way, they assume, the only way they can win is to cheat. When you have men in women's sports, it's fine. It's wonderful. By the way, I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee and got that terminated for the Olympics. Very nice. Now, girls won't have to get beat up in the boxing ring like they did last time. If you saw those fights, two people that transitioned beat the hell out of everyone, out of other people, women. It was not a pretty sight to watch. So I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee, and we were able to get that out. So the Olympics will not have men in women's sports. But these are the things that they vote on, and that's why we're having a problem with them. They don't want ICE because they don't want people to be taken out of our country that are murderers, that are drug dealers, and that are people from mental institutions, the criminally insane. These are not nice people. And it's amazing. It's not even believable. If you go back 12, 13, 15, 20 years, that we even have to bring up a subject like there will be no trans mutilation. We don't want any transgender mutilization of our children. We don't want to have people pouring into our country from other countries all over the world, where prisons are opened up all over the world. They're opened up and they pour into our country. Murderers, 11,888 murderers. Think of that. We got many of them out. And by the way, Washington, D.C. just set a new record for safety. And I'm sure you know that, because, Peter, when you walk down the street, you're not mugged lately. But it's a very safe city now. We took great pains to make it that way, but it actually happened pretty quickly. Within 3 months, it was good. Within 4 months, it was very good. Within 5 months, it was great. Now it's better than it ever was. And so Washington, D.C. is now considered a very, very safe city. We removed almost 4,000 people, just so you understand. You know, an interesting stat is that 2% of the people create more than 90% of the crime. And the good thing about that is when you get rid of 2%, it's not that many, you don't have a lot of crime. But Washington, D.C., we're very proud of. We're very proud of Memphis, Tennessee, and Louisiana. New Orleans is unbelievable. They had the safest, they just finished their Mardi Gras. They had the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years. The governor just called me. Jeff Landry just called me. He said, it's the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years because of us. And really, Chicago should call and say we'd like help. New York should call. They've had a lot of problems that we want help. Los Angeles should call and probably will. I think they have to. Now, we're going to have to do something when it comes World Cup time, and we're going to have to force ourselves upon them, which we have the right to do because we don't want to have any crime. We don't want to have any problems for the Olympics and the World Cup, and even for 250. So with all of that, I'm very happy to be signing the voter integrity, and I think it's going to be really great. So if you don't mind, I will take some time and I'll make this signature absolutely perfect. So it looks very good. So far, so good. Okay. So that's a big deal. Very proud of it. And I think, I don't know how it can be challenged. I'll probably challenge it. You may find a rogue judge. You get a lot of rogue judges, very bad people, very bad judges. But that's the only way that can be changed. And hopefully we'll win on appeal if it is. But I don't see how anybody can challenge it. I don't see how they can challenge it. And remember, it's about voter integrity. We want to have honest voting in our country, because if you don't have honest voting, you can't have really a nation, if you want to know the truth. Howard, I'll give that to you. Do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Mr. President. As you know, there's issues right now with DHS not being funded. Coast Guard is one of them, which is very important, especially with things going on in the Strait of Hormuz and here in our own country. You have the power to transfer control from the Department of Homeland Security to the Navy. Are you considering doing that?
No, I have a lot of powers to do things, and we use the powers where appropriate. Sometimes you don't have to use those powers. You know, they're a little severe. And then people accuse me of being a king. You see, the king, this is the new one. They've been trying for a long time, including 4 years where I was out of office watching how badly this country was run. But they've been trying for a long time. You know what they really are doing is they want to have people coming into our country. They want to have open borders. They want to have criminals coming into our country. They want to have people unchecked, unvetted, coming into our country that you can look at them and say, this is not good. And that's what happened. They allowed 25 million people into our country. Many of those people were criminals. Many of them were drug dealers and murderers and people that were let out of mental institutions, prison populations in some countries. The Congo, almost its entire prison population was allowed to come into the United States of America. The Congo. Many of the countries in South America, they emptied their prisons out into our country. This was under Biden. And nobody can tell me that's a good thing. And yet, they haven't changed their ways, because if they ever took power, they would open up the borders and they would let people pour in and destroy our country. So I have many powers, but I don't have to use them. I mean, only in severe cases. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you. If you were able to sign the executive order to pay the TSA agents, why not do the same for FEMA and other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, FEMA is different because FEMA, I really believe that it's fine, but I think it's very inefficient. I think, we have smart governors, and one way to tell whether or not they're smart is how well they do. FEMA is a very expensive way of trying to put out a problem. But what I'd rather do is let the states do it and help them financially, but let the states do it. In other words, you'll have a hurricane in Florida, and people will come from Alaska. They haven't been to Florida. By the time they get used to it, problem can be solved. So I've never been a big fan of FEMA. I like to keep it local. I like to see governors and neighboring states help each other as opposed to FEMA. FEMA is very expensive, and it really doesn't get the job done. You know, in North Carolina, they did a terrible job until I became elected a second time, and I went and, you know, we had that tremendous water flood. There was a water hurricane, the likes of which nobody has seen. Land areas that never had lakes all of a sudden had lakes that you couldn't even get to it. And actually, we were helped by Elon Musk with the communication, with his great communication system that worked very well. We were very lucky, saved a lot of lives. But no, we got to do things right. And if you don't do them right, we shouldn't do them at all. Yeah, please.
Thank you, President Trump. After you said today that the Iran war may be ending soon, the stock market closed much higher. Do you have thoughts on that? And also, a judge just ordered you to stop construction of the ballroom. Are you planning to stop?
Well, we'll appeal that, but it's not. I don't know. It's basically. I mean, I wrote a part of his opinion, but basically he's saying I need congressional approval, and he's so wrong. This is being financed privately. It's a donation that's being given by companies, very rich companies, very rich people, so that for 150 years they've wanted a ballroom here. We're going to have the finest ballroom, I believe, anywhere in the world. And he said, we need congressional approval. Well, they don't get congressional approval from the White House. When they do things, they don't, especially when you don't, we didn't ask for any tax money. We have no tax. This is taxpayer free. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents. And I see right here, I just wrote it out. He said, we need congressional approval. Well, we built many things at the White House over the years. They don't get congressional approval when they build in the White House. It's totally separate. And especially when it's a donation. I mean, the ballroom is a donation. It's gotten great reviews. People love it. And presidents for 150 years have wanted this ballroom to be built, because when we have President Xi or other presidents or prime ministers coming, we don't have a big room. We have the East Room, which is very small. And he said we need congressional approval. He also said, but this is positive for us, I'm allowed, that meaning we are allowed to continue building as necessary to, let's see, what is that? To cover the safety and security of the White House and its grounds. So it says here very carefully, the safety and security have to be protected of the White House grounds. Well, that's what we're doing, because everything's bulletproof glass, et cetera, including the ballroom. And then it goes construction and all of the things necessary. It says personal safety of the president and his staff are a part of that. So it talks about that we're allowed to continue building. In other words, he put an order on, and even that he gave 14 days. We don't need it, because that's what we're doing. He's allowed to continue building as necessary. And when it talks about the safety and security of the White House and its grounds. So just so you know, I wrote some of the thing down. We have a drone-proof roof, and it talks about the president and his staff. Well, we don't have a lot of bulletproof glass. The White House was built a long time ago. This has the highest level of, in fact, they call this the glass, it's bulletproof and it's ballistic proof. It's very thick. It's like that. And it's going 45 feet high, and every window is covered, every door is covered. The roof is drone proof. We have secure air handling systems. You know, bad things happen in the air if you have bad people. We have bio defense all over. We have secure telecommunications and communications all over. We have bomb shelters that we're building. We have a hospital and very major medical facilities that we're building. We have all of these things. So that's called, I'm allowed to continue building as necessary. So think of that, for the safety of the president. So we have all these things. So on that, we're okay. Where he's totally wrong, and he made, a statement, that's fine. But I'll give you an example. You have right here, $300 to $400 million, depending on finishes. If I use very expensive marble, If I use very expensive wall coatings, if I could bring it up to 400. Otherwise, we're right now ahead of schedule. We're under budget. But depending on finishes, from 300 to 400 million dollars are being given by great people, people that you all know, rich people, rich companies, big companies. They wanted to see this built because every president, literally for 150 years, has needed a space like this. Many of you have gone to the tent when we have a president of a big country or somebody being honored of great distinction, and they sit in a tent, and if it rains, you get soaked because the grass gets wet here very fast. It's a wet area. They used to call it a wetland, but I guess they don't do that for the White House, but it's essentially a wetland. And when it rains, you're in trouble. The water can go up to 3 to 4 inches over their shoes. It's not a good feeling for who was Prince Charles, who will be here next couple of weeks, is King Charles, who's a great guy. We don't want him to sit in a pool of water. And they've been wanting this for 150 years, and we're building it, and it's covered perfectly. What's not covered perfectly is the fact that the judge said we need congressional approval. Many things have been built in the White House. They haven't gotten congressional approval, especially when the money is being not put up by the taxpayer. The taxpayer's not putting up a dime. This building was necessary for many years by the fact that I've built many ballrooms, and I built many things, and I know how to build. I'm not building the Federal Reserve where the guy's spending $4 billion for a tiny little building. $4 billion for the Federal Reserve building. That contractor is going to be one of the richest men anywhere in the world after he finishes the Federal Reserve. The man is totally incompetent. Jerome Too-Late Powell is totally incompetent, and he's got to get out of office pretty fast. He's doing a bad job, but he's also done a bad job in shepherding the construction of that building. You know, they ripped down a part of that building, and it was they say it's one of the nicest buildings in Washington. They ripped it down. So we feel, and we don't feel, we know that congressional approval is not necessary to put up a ballroom. And many things have been built on the site, they've never gotten congressional approval. And especially when the money is all put up. This is all donations by people that love our country, that love the White House, and that feel it was very necessary.
Mr. President, a couple of questions for you on Iran. The first one that affects Americans here at home, gas prices. Today they hit $4.
We have $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us in 6 months. Of course,
but Americans are feeling the effects in the interim of this
and they're
operation.
Also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini who sadly is no longer with us. And we had regime change already. We've knocked out one regime, then we knocked out the second regime. Now we have a group of people that are very different. They're much more reasonable, I think much less radicalized. We have had regime change. We're dealing with people that are much more rational, and it's amazing what we've done. We had to make a little detour. So when the stock market broke all records just a few weeks ago, when it hit 50,000 on the Dow, 7,000 on the S&P, I said to the American people, it's time that we have to make a little detour because we have a madman that wants a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't knock him out with a B-2 bomber, we would have a nuclear weapon right now. It would have been used before today. And you may not be standing there asking that question, okay? So I think we have a country that understands that. I see CNN did a poll and they talked about voters or MAGA voters, and my poll came out at 100%. Nobody covers that poll. They had another poll where it's at 92% approval. I think that the people understand it. We'll be leaving very soon, and if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens with the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it. We hit them hard. We got rid of a lot of the radicalized lunatics along the strait. But if they want something, but I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote,
will be gone.
We knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war?
I think with 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is,
we'll leave
weeks,
because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it, or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today, I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges. And we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. Got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. You know, their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders. Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. You talked about how the ballroom needs to have a drone-proof roof.
Right.
There have been drone swarms flying over sensitive military installations in the U.S. over the last couple of weeks. The reports are they don't look commercial and they can't be jammed. Is this another country's military?
I don't think so. We have a great system of. Do you notice that over the last 4 or 5 days, you haven't seen very many drone hits? Right? We have some unbelievable anti-drone weaponry that's incredible. But you want to have, like, for instance, the ballroom. We have a very powerful very steel roof with other things in it. And you want to have, if you're building a building for security, just like his judge's opinion, you have to have security for the president and the staff. You need heavy, strong ceilings. You need seriously thick, bulletproof, ballistic glass. And we have that. Other buildings don't. You know, fairly modern buildings don't have that. They have roofs that are weak and they have regular glass windows.
There was this incident down at Barksdale, though, where apparently a whole swarm of drones for a couple hours was over the flight line. There's a lot of really important planes down there. Yeah. How concerned are you that this is some other country just scoping out?
Yeah. I know about it. They've checked that out and they've gotten to the bottom of it. You know, you have a lot of people now that fly these things all over the place, and we're coming down very hard on them. But we're able to take them out militarily. We're able to take them out very easily. And a new thing is lasers. You know, the lasers are becoming very, very effective. You hit a drone and it melts in air. It's a beautiful thing to see. If it's coming at you, having a laser is a very nice thing. But we have, there are methods of defending against drones. I mean, the advantage from the standpoint of defense is they don't go very fast relative to a F-22, that plane right over there. They go very slow. They can be also shot out of the air by, high quality aircraft, which we have more than anybody ever had.
And there was a viral video this week. I don't know if you saw it, of Army helicopters hovering near Kid Rock's house in Nashville. Did you see that video?
I didn't see it, no, but I'm sure they had a good time.
So the Army just said the crews of these helicopters have been suspended. What do you think of that?
Well, it depends. They probably shouldn't have been doing it. Yes, you're not supposed to be playing games, right? But I'd take a look at it. They like Kid Rock. I like Kid Rock. Maybe they were trying to defend him. I don't know.
Does Iran have to make a deal? Does Iran have to make a deal for the U.S. to end its operation in Iran? And
no,
have you spoken? And have you spoken directly?
Iran doesn't have to make a deal. No. Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people. It's a new regime. They are much more accessible. they are right. You know, they said, we have a present for you, Mr. President, out of respect. And they said, wait a minute, you want me to answer the question? You're a fresh person. You know, we've had a lot of problems with you, haven't we? No, they don't. You ask me a question. No, they don't have to make a deal with me. When we feel that they are, for a long period of time, put into the Stone Ages, and they won't be able to come up with a nuclear weapon, then we'll leave. Whether we have a deal or not, it's irrelevant. Now, it's possible that we'll have a deal because they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal. But in a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me and that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are very radicalized people. They're very sick leaderships. And I will say, though, that the leadership we're dealing with now, with the new regime, because we have a new regime, and the new regime is much better than the past. Yeah.
Mr. President, the Iranian government threatened a bunch of U.S. companies today in the region, including Google, Apple.
With what? What did they threaten them with? PB guns? Or?
Well, that's a
they don't have
question.
much left to threaten.
My question for you is: is the U.S. talking
what
to
did
those
they?
companies?
You made a statement. What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Go ahead, tell me. How did they threaten them?
Well, all I know is that they threatened them, sir.
What does that mean?
Fair enough.
They said something nasty.
Is the government in touch with these companies? Are you helping to backstop them?
You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat?
I'll get back
Did
to
they
you.
say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them. They're not. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon.
Is it something you're concerned about, sir?
No.
Iran's IRGC issues a warning that they will target 18 U.S. technology companies if the U.S. continues targeted assassinations of Iranian leaders beginning on April 1st. Those companies included NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft.
Most of those people are dead already. Yeah, Peter?
I got one. Your son Eric posted a photo of what will be the Trump Presidential Library. Yeah. It's a huge skyscraper. Is that all a library? What else is going in there?
Well, it's a library. It's a museum or a library. It's a presidential. But I wouldn't start it till I'm out of office. I don't believe in building libraries or museums. It's really like the Barack Hussein Obama one in Chicago. In not a good location, and it's a very unattractive building that's seriously late and seriously over budget. I think you're going to see a great one here, and it'll go up on time, on budget, best location in Miami. They say it's the best block in Miami, and the state worked with us.
Will people live in the floors?
No, it's going to be most likely a hotel. You know, it's a concept, could be office, but it's most likely going to be a hotel with a beautiful building underneath and a 747 Air Force One in the lobby, which is going to be a trick.
And the Supreme Court tomorrow is going to hear arguments about your executive order trying to get rid of birthright citizenship.
And I'm going.
You're going to go to the Supreme Court tomorrow.
So. I do believe
and just sit there and listen.
Because I have listened to this argument for so long, and this is not about Chinese billionaires or billionaires from other countries who all of a sudden have 75 children or 59 children in one case or 10 children becoming American citizens. This was about slaves. And if you take a look, we're talking about slaves from the Civil War. And if you take a look at when it was filed, all of this legislation, all of this, everything having to do with birthright citizenship, it was at the end of the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves and the protection of the babies of slaves. It didn't have to do with the protection of multi-millionaires and billionaires wanting to have their children get an American citizenship. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's been so badly handled by legal people over the years. If you look at the original birthright citizenship papers, they all happened right after the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves. And hopefully it's going to say, because our country is being scammed. We're getting all of these people. They're selling the rights to them. People are making a big living, getting hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars from bringing people in and saying, congratulations, your whole family is going to be a citizen of the United States of America. That's not what it was for. It wasn't for billionaires bringing people in or family in. It was for the children of slaves. And what you really have to do, and I don't think the lawyers talk about it as much, look at when the Civil War ended and look at the date of when this was enacted. Okay.
Have you ever been to the Supreme Court before? Is this going to be the first time going to the Supreme Court?
No, I went once before. The opening of the Supreme Court in the last administration.
And which justices will you be listening for most closely?
I love a few of them. I don't like some others. And you say what you want, but you have the ones that were appointed by Barack Hussein Obama and Biden. I don't care how good your case is. You could have the greatest case ever. They're going to rule against you. They always do. And it's not supposed to be that way. Now, the Republicans tend to be very different. They want to show how honorable they are. So a man can appoint them and they can rule against him. It's so proud of it. We're so proud we ruled against Trump. We're so proud. We're above it. There are those that say that's wonderful. And there are those that say they're so stupid. But the Democrats never fail at one thing. When Barack Hussein Obama or when Biden appoints somebody, they go along that line. You can have the greatest case in history. And almost, I guess I have to say almost, maybe I don't have to say it, almost without fail, those people, 4 of them, sometimes 5 of them, but 4 of them will vote against you. You don't have a chance. You don't have a chance. And that's not what the court system is. Now, the Republican appointees tend to go, and this has been long before me. This has been for many years. Some people would call it stupidity. Some people would call it disloyal. Some people would say they're right in doing it. And I don't mind being right, but the other side almost never does it. Almost. I think you could find maybe a couple of instances. Almost never does. When a Democrat appoints a judge, and I'm talking about judges, not just justices, you go before some of these Democrat judges in Washington, D.C., and you don't have a chance. That's why I gave pardons to hundreds of people that were so badly treated, having to do with J6. Yeah.
President Trump. Next.
Oh, do you have a question? Yeah. Let's go. I didn't see you over there.
Sorry.
You've been so nice. Here we go. Now she's gonna hit me with a bad one. Go ahead.
On the Save America Act, Mr. President, do you still think it's going to pass? Were you
I don't know. It's the craziest thing. The Democrats are totally against it. Again, they're unified. I think maybe you would have Fetterman, who I have a lot of respect for, but the Democrats are unified against it, and you need Democrat votes. Unless you do something smart called the filibuster, terminate the filibuster, which they should do. Republicans should do that, but there are a couple of Republicans that maybe they're not so smart because the Democrats will do it in the first day in office, maybe the first hour. It's a question, will it be the first hour or the first day? So who can believe that a person, you can't even get it to the floor, that a person wouldn't vote for, think of it, for citizenship, proof of citizenship, for voter identification. And we also added one. We added mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots with exceptions for the military, for people that are sick, people that are traveling, the disabled. We have very generous exceptions. But who would believe that that would be possible not to get those things to vote for? And then we added, best of Trump, we added no men and women sports subject, but we added that. And we said no transgender mutilization of our children. These are all 90, 95, maybe 98 in some cases, maybe 99 in terms of those first two. If you talk about the first two, I think at 98, 99% voter identification, right? Don't you think it's nice with picture? Wouldn't you think it's nice when the Democrats had their convention? I remember it so well. You had to have identification to get into the arena. And they had a card that was bigger than most of their chests. And it had everything. It had their picture. And if you didn't have that card, they threw you away. In New York City recently, we had a big snowstorm. Mayor Mandemi had He called out for people to shovel snow, but you had to give identification with picture. If you didn't have, and it wasn't one identification, you had to have two. So to shovel snow in New York City, you need identification, double with picture. But to vote, which is maybe our most cherished thing, you don't need. They don't want voter ID, the Democrats, because they want to cheat. The problem is we need their votes. In order to get it, you need their votes. And look, they know their policy is so bad. They know that if they gave those votes, they might never win another election. So they're fighting like hell. They're actually fighting for their survival because their policy, the Republicans have great policy, smart policy, strong borders, low interest rates, low taxes. We just gave you the largest tax cut in history. All these great policies, you know, we want a strong military. Look at our military. We have the strongest military. Look what happened in Venezuela. It was so incredible. People said the greatest military maneuver they've ever seen. Look what's happening in Iran. We're totally unchecked. Everything's been bombed out. They have no anti-aircraft protection. They have no nothing. They don't have anything. Look at our military. The Democrats don't want that. And when I read the fake New York Times, you take a look at it, it's like, oh, they're putting up a good fight. They're not putting up a fight. They're not even shooting at us, okay? We have planes are just ruling the sky. We have airplanes. Those two. We have airplanes. Nice, right? Lincoln with a little modern touch. The great Benjamin Franklin with a little modern touch. But think of it. They are roaming the skies over Tehran. They're not even being shot at because their equipment's been totally decimated. They have nothing to shoot. They have no Navy. They have no anything. And just think about this. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no nothing. They're losing. They admit they're losing. They're begging to make a deal. And if you read the fake New York Times, a corrupt newspaper, where I'm suing them and I think I should do very well, but you would almost think, who's winning? It's so fraudulent. But just to finish up with the New York Times, if you read the New York Times prior to my election victory, including the first one, and the second one too, I won three times convincingly. But let's go to the third victory. If you read the New York Times, you would say, oh, Trump's going to lose. But I won in a landslide. I won the popular vote. I won the Electoral College in a massive number, right? Massive. I won the counties, 86% of the counties I won. All of these different things. Winning the popular vote for a Republican is, pretty amazing. But if you read the New York Times for months and months and months, you were hearing, oh, Trump is doing so badly. We have to straighten out our media. The reason their circulation is way down, the New York Times circulation, has gone way down. Washington Post is almost extinct. The papers that are being dishonest, papers generally, people don't believe the media. And to finish, I got 93% bad publicity. Some people say 97, but between 93 and 97. A person that gets 97% of bad stories, maybe Caroline's doing a poor job. I don't know. She's my representative. You're doing a terrible job. Should we keep her? I think we'll keep her. But I get 93 to 97% bad press, fake press, all fake. I won in a landslide. When you get 93 to 97 bad stories, bad press, and you win in a landslide, you know what that says? People don't believe the press. And when people don't believe the press, that's a very bad thing for our country. And when you look at, let's say, the New York Times or the Washington Post, the stories are so fake. Wall Street Journal, too, a lot of bad stories. I don't know what happened to them, but they're bad. Their circulation went way down, Wall Street Journal. I don't know if you saw the numbers that came out yesterday. New York Times, way down. Wall Street Journal, way down. Washington Post, number one, way down. Because people don't believe them anymore. And until they get, it's not the paper, it's not the big, it's that they have no credibility anymore, which is a very sad thing for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Senate. Speaker Mike Johnson.
Trump had a formal statement on Truth Social about this. The radical left Democrats.
Trump signing an executive order to pay TSA agents. The Homeland Security says they'll start getting paychecks as early as Monday. That'll include current pay and back pay. But the DHS funding battle is not over. Big news this afternoon. The House rejecting a DHS funding package that was passed overnight by the Senate. Speaker Mike Johnson.
Trump had a formal statement on Truth Social about this. The radical left Democrats and their quote-unquote leader, crying Chuck Schumer, have made it very clear where they stand, and that is on the side of criminal illegal aliens and not the American people. Remember when none of them would stand up at the State of the Union when Trump said, if you agree with this statement, stand up. America's first obligation is to American citizens, not migrants. Trump writes they're refusing to fund immigration enforcement unless the Republicans agree to their open border policies, which will never, ever happen. They almost destroyed our country, allowing 25 million people, it's far more than that, to enter from prisons, mental institutions, and insane asylums, those that are drug dealers and thousands of murderers, many of whom killed more than one person. Because the Democrats have recklessly created a true national crisis, I'm using my authorities under the law to protect our great country, as I always will do. Therefore, I'm going to sign an order instructing the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, to immediately pay our TSA agents in order to address this emergency situation and to quickly stop the Democrat chaos at the airports. It's not an easy thing to do, but I'm going to do it. I want to thank our hardworking TSA agents and also ICE for the incredible help they have given us at the airports. I will not allow the radical left Democrats to hold our country hostage any longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And reports this morning is that TSA agents have begun receiving paychecks. It doesn't mean everyone's getting paid. I believe those are the agents, the sworn agents have begun receiving paychecks. Staff positions are still being unpaid. And those are important. Those do important functions. Clip on this.
We can confirm that at least some TSA agents have started getting paid as of this morning. Our team down at Atlanta Airport just talked to a handful of those agents there. They confirmed they did get a paycheck today, though one agent did say his was about 30 hours short of what he had worked. But looking at the bigger picture here, as these airports start trying to get back on track, Border Czar Tom Homan says ICE agents will be staying at those airports until things are running smoothly again.
In fact, the airports look better than I've seen them in years. Makes you wonder why we have TSA at all.
Better here this weekend. Lines are moving. People are.
So Atlanta.
But that comes after a rough week of lines that at some points were stretching all throughout the entire terminal. And even though TSA workers are set to get paid as soon as tomorrow, thanks to the president's executive order, one officer we spoke to says he's not sure how much it will help.
The problem is we only see who's not here. We don't know who's coming back. And so until you have the government finally opening up, we truly won't know the impact. Please rectify it, because at the end of the day, not only do we get hurt, but the American flying public's going to get hurt, because this is it's going to keep on escalating.
But something that is helping TSA are ICE agents. ICE was initially helping with managing lines, controlling crowds, but now a lot of them are checking people's IDs before the TSA checkpoint. So those TSA workers still on the job can focus on specialty screening.
Look at this video. Here's a flyer at the airports. What's her experience? This is also at Atlanta.
What's up, everybody? This is Angela Stanton-King, and I'm reporting live from Hartsfield Airport. And apparently, Trump sending ICE to the airport was a great thing, because guess what? I just walked straight through. And if you look over there in the corner, news reporters with nothing to report because there's some haters. So shout out to ICE. This is your favorite Angela Stanton-King reporting live from Hartsfield Airport. I walked straight through. Go right no lines. Shout out to this awesome officer. Shout out to Trump. Shout out to ICE.
Shout out to Trump. Shout out to ICE. Now the clip here. Of course, this is a crying baby.
I'm in New York right now, leaving, and we have ICE helping the counter.
Everything's running smoothly. Approval polls. Approval of Trump's decision to declare a national security emergency to pay TSA workers their back pay. 80% approval. That 22% disapproval, of course, are just the TDS-afflicted progressive fascists who will never agree with anything Trump does. They have to viscerally respond in the negative. This post says President Trump is about to force the Democrats to sue him to not pay TSA, to make things bad again, to have those lines running clear out of the airport into the parking garage. Is that possible? You think the Democrats would be stupid enough to do that? And the answer is yes. Yes. They're saying what Trump is doing is illegal, and they're going to go to court to make him stop paying TSA.
What did Democrats get out of this standoff?
Yeah, well, Margaret, the standoff is not done yet, right? The president is illegally paying, apparently, TSA agents. You had the Senate, as you pointed out with Mr. Homan.
The standoff is not done yet. They want the standoff to continue.
And Homan pass a bipartisan bill unanimously in the United States Senate to say, look, let's fund everybody else and let's deal with this thorny issue about
a bipartisan bill in the Senate. You know, there were only 5 senators present at 3 a.m. when they passed that, so everyone could run off to 2-week vacation. Bipartisan.
ICE. And then you had the Republican House say, hell no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. Here's Trump on Air Force One, says TSA workers will be paid as long as we have to.
Amazing.
How long can you pay TSA workers for from the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Well, we're going to pay them for as long as we have to. I will tell you, the ICE workers have been amazing, and that's helping people with their bags. It's very interesting. We put ICE there, and ICE got a very unfair press. They're doing an amazing job getting pardoned criminals, murders. 11,888 murders were allowed to come into our country through Biden, and ICE has been amazing. Now, we said, give us a little hand during this period of time, because this is caused by Democrat terrorists. These people are sick. They don't care about our country. They don't care about people. But what it's all about really is they want to have open borders, and they want to have criminals come into our country so they can get more votes, because they're losing votes fast. Look at how I did with the Hispanic population, and now I'm doing even better with the Hispanic population. And that's bad for them. They always had it. Now they don't have it anymore. These are people that want our country to fail, and the voters see that.
It's all the Democrats. Here's Tom Homan. Oh, this guy I do have blocked. Aaron Rupar, he's a piece of work. This block is intentional, but I'm going to share this clip of Tom Homan regardless.
Right, but if President Trump had the power to pay TSA agents this whole time, why only start doing it now?
See, you can't win with these people. No matter what choice you make, it's the wrong choice. It's like in use of force situations where you have to defend yourself with a gun. You get criminally charged. You go to trial. Prosecutor says, oh, he was using those extra lethal hollow point bullets in his gun. That's why you should find him guilty. But if you just use the non-hollow points, if you just use the full metal jacket rounds, then the prosecutor says that was the wrong choice too. We saw that in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. No matter what ammo you pick, it'll be the wrong ammo. No matter what decision Trump makes, it'll be the wrong decision. If you don't pay him, it's a problem. If you do pay him, well, why weren't you doing it before? Like they weren't going to object as they're litigating now to stop you from paying them.
Right, but if President Trump had the power to pay TSA agents this whole time, why only start doing it now?
Look, I don't understand. Look, I'm a cop. I don't understand the whole appropriations language, appropriations law. I'm just glad that President Trump is able to pay the TSA agents. At least that's a start. But again, there's a lot more, many more, thousands of more, tens of thousands of more DHS employees who are not being paid that need to be paid.
Right, but if President Trump had the power.
And a clip here from a reporter at the White House sharing a conversation she had with Trump.
Yeah, just talked to the president. He's on Air Force One, headed down to Florida, where he's going to actually wrap some of this into his speech. I asked him his position on what the House had just done, rejecting the bill that the Senate passed last night. He sounds like he agrees very much with Mike Johnson in rejecting what the Senate sent over. He said that any bill that does not fund ICE and doesn't fund CBP is not appropriate, and it wasn't good. He said that the Senate should instead just terminate the filibuster and take a vote. But he says 3 or 4 Republicans don't want to do that. And so in the meantime, you can't have a bill that's not going to fund any form of law enforcement, which he says ICE and Border Patrol are both a big part. And he boiled it down to this. this is how we got here, in his words. This whole thing is about the Democrats wanting to have open borders, no ICE, no border patrol. These people are crazy. They want open borders. They want no border patrol. They want no ICE. They want no nothing except for criminals to pour into our country. And it's not going to happen. He told me he might include that line in his speech later on tonight. I asked him in the interim, how do you resolve this issue of TSA workers not getting paid? He says his executive order should get them paid very quickly, and Russell Vogt at OMB will be the person determining the mechanism and exactly the timeline.
All right, so I expect we will see lawsuits filed today by the Democrats to prevent Trump from paying TSA. We'll see what happens when those lawsuits are filed. I'll certainly cover them for all of you in the Branca Show community as they happen.
NATO is dying, at least when it comes to its western wing. But the alliance is being reborn in the east, and the contrast could not possibly be more stark or more damning. While Eastern European nations are spending 5% of their GDP to build the most powerful army in European history, pathetic, spoiled, and dying nations like Spain are literally closing their airspace to American warplanes in the middle of an active war. Stick them to the very end of this video because we're about to see how the center of gravity of the entire Western alliance is shifting. And what's happening in Central and Eastern Europe right now is going to absolutely blow your mind. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Let's start with the latest headline coming out of Central and Eastern Europe. Poland and Estonia have just partnered to build something that could fundamentally change the drone warfare calculus on the European continent. Take a look at this. This is the Mark I interceptor missile. It weighs under 2 kilograms, or about 4 pounds. It travels at over 620 miles per hour. It uses a fire-and-forget electro-optical seeker, meaning it locks on, it fires, and it don't miss. And it does all of that for a targeted unit cost of just $40,000 to $50,000. For context, that's roughly 1/10 of the cost of a Stinger missile. 1/10. Well, it's just been announced that Poland's State Defense Group, PGZ, and Estonia's Frankenberg Technologies has signed a framework agreement to jointly manufacture the Mark I interceptor missile right inside Poland. And they're planning to produce upwards of 10,000 of these per year. 10,000. Now, the immediate threat that such an interceptor missile would seek to deter is, of course, Russia's Shahed drone technology, which they got from Iran. This is one of the reasons why Ukrainian military personnel have been meeting with Israeli and U.S. forces in the Middle East to share with them technology and strategic intelligence to counter the Shahed. But there's the deeper strategic story of all this that goes way beyond Russian deterrence. Poland is not just buying weapons. Poland is becoming a major weapons manufacturer. In fact, it has become the major weapons manufacturer in NATO. Warsaw has deliberately embedded domestic defense industrial capacity into its national security strategy because they understand something that Western Europe still refuses to accept. You cannot deter a great power adversary if you depend on a foreign supply chain to defend yourself. So this is what real strategic seriousness looks like. Poland's already spending 4.3% of GDP on defense, the highest share of any NATO ally, and they've constitutionally locked that in. Meanwhile, freeloader nations like Belgium are spending barely 2%, the same with socialist Spain. They've been hovering near 2% forever. And NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has had to publicly admit that Europe faced delays in coordination and preparedness when the Iranian war broke out. And that was just simply a diplomat's way of saying they weren't ready. They weren't willing. And that laziness, that brazen, ungrateful dismissal of the fact that American taxpayers pay over 60% of NATO's bills was on full display of late when Spain, a supposed ally, a supposed NATO ally, closed its airspace to U.S. military aircraft. Now, keep in mind, not just the bases, the airspace. Spain's socialist officials called the conflict with Iran, quote, deeply illegal and profoundly unjust. Deeply illegal. I mean, where are they getting that from? What law court are they appealing to? The UN? The EU Commission on Human Rights? What? And what transcendent standard of justice are these socialist clowns appealing to? They're living in a world that doesn't exist anymore. They're still trapped in a liberal international order that's gone the way of the dodo bird. Unfortunately, even so-called NATO allies that recognize that that world has passed away and have embraced civilizational populism, even they're disappointing us as we speak. You may have heard that Reuters is reporting that Giorgia Meloni's Italy just denied the United States permission to land its military aircraft at an airbase in Sicily on its way to the Middle East. So that's akin to what Spain did. Spain also refused to allow B-52 and B-1 bombers to stage from bases at Rotan Moron in the southern Spain, forcing the U.S. to reroute their aircraft away to Fairford Air Base in England, adding hundreds of miles to every single mission over the Middle East. In other words, they're not just making the mission harder. These so-called allies are adding unnecessary risk on top of an already risky active theater of war. And we're not even going to talk about France at this point. The globalists there are just a bunch of unserious clowns. President Trump, for his part, did not mince words. He's basically telling Western NATO countries, you're on your own. You're 5x more dependent on oil transported through the Strait of Hormuz than we are. So either buy directly from us, since we got plenty, or go and get your own stupid oil. It's all on you. You go into the Strait of Hormuz. You secure it. But don't expect us to do all the heavy lifting while you sit there wasting away in your pampered welfare states. And he wasn't alone. Here's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others. And yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing and overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out. And ultimately, it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is complete.
So as far as this administration is concerned, the Hormuz crisis has exposed the core rot in the Western European wing of this alliance. But that contrasts dramatically with NATO's eastern flank. And that is what looks to be more and more the future of this alliance. But first, gang, let's talk a little bit about your health. Did you know that stem cells are basically your body's repair crew? They travel through your bloodstream, fixing things that need fixing. Now, here's the crazy part. Stem cell therapy exists, but most people can't access it. I mean, real treatments often mean flying overseas, spending like $50K for a single injection, completely out of the reach of most people. But while researching this, I found something fascinating. There's actually a natural way to support your body's own stem cell activity, and it comes from something unexpected: high flavanol cocoa. Studies suggest that cocoa flavanols can help stimulate stem cells to leave the bone marrow and circulate through your bloodstream, almost like bees leaving a hive. And if that sounds crazy, listen to one of the top cancer researchers in the United States explain it.
Is it true?
Hit the link in the description or pin comment and grab the deal before it disappears. Poland has a high-tech armed forces development program running through 2039 that targets 300,000 active duty troops supported by 200,000 reservists. They're building long-range precision strike capability that can reach over 1,000 kilometers into enemy territory. They formally withdrew from the Ottawa Convention back in February, meaning that they can now mine their borders with Belarus and Kaliningrad within 48 hours. The Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania all spend about 3.4% of GDP on defense. Latvia's plans to demolish roads and bridges in the event of a Russian incursion to deny Moscow its lines of advance. Lithuania's pre-positioned anti-tank minefields at key choke points. And Poland's first F-35A Huzash fighters are arriving at the Vask airbase as early as next month in May, part of a 32 aircraft deal that will give Warsaw one of the most advanced tactical air forces in all of Europe. This, gang, is the new NATO. This is the new NATO. It's not centered in Brussels. It's not centered in Paris or Berlin or Madrid. It's centered in Warsaw. It's centered in Tallinn and Vilnius and Riga. These are the nations that have stared down the barrel of Russian imperialism over the last several centuries, that know what it costs to lose their sovereignty, and that are not willing to make that mistake twice. Poland has inspired Donald Trump. Their own defense minister said it. They've been above that 2% threshold of GDP for over a decade, and they told every NATO freeloader this is what commitment looks like. And so here's the bottom line, gang. NATO is undergoing a historic tectonic shift. The Western wing, Spain, Belgium, France, their fellow travelers, they've revealed themselves to be strategically unreliable, militarily underfunded, and politically compromised by anti-American sentiment dressed up as international law. The Eastern wing, Poland, the Baltics, in Finland, they're building the most credible conventional deterrent Europe has seen since the Cold War. And they're doing it with innovation, with urgency, and with the kind of civilizational seriousness that the Western elites simply cannot muster. The center of the transatlantic alliance has moved east. The world is changing in ways we never even imagined, and that change has officially come to NATO. Ever wonder what I really think off camera? That's Turley Walks. It's exclusive to the members of the Courageous Patriots Club, but one free episode is unlocked for you right now. Scan the QR code and watch today.
CNN is now... Y'all, at this point, I don't even know what to say anymore. They are full on throwing the far left progressives on the altar of sacrifice for their election desires. I'm telling you, I've been telling you, I'm about to show you how it has reached a fever pitch. CNN is now doing hits on the progressive wonder child, Hassan Piker. It's gone from progressives commenting, Democrats, Democrat Party, and now the media. Yo, this should look very, very familiar. Everything I'm going to show you is linked in the description box below. Guys, please see what is happening under the surface and the ramifications. This is a big one. Everything will be linked in the description box below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. Okay, guys, we're going to jump right into this. You can follow me on X at BradenLOA if you would like. But I want to show you what is happening. And when you zoom out, it is remarkable. Now, I've shown you for the last several days. I think we actually started talking about this about 5 days ago, before the media even got a whiff of it. The Democrats were isolating and targeting and destroying the far left progressive wonder boy, Hassan Piker. He's an easy target to do it. He's an absolutely asinine version of a human. However, when you're looking at the things that you're looking at, the exact same weaponization and tactics they used against people like you and I, they're now using on progressive wonder boy Hassan Piker. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Look at this. From the Tennessee Holler, this is a far left progressive account. And honestly, it's a media outlet too. CNN doing more to oppose Hassan Piker than Trump's war on Iran. This is wild. And by the way, that sentence by itself is interesting because the war in Iran is not what the progressives are telling you it is. And more of that is coming later today. Everything is dropping. I mean, it's crazy. Things are dropping faster than we're dropping bombs on Iran. I mean, honest to God. All right. You need to understand this as we go forward. I'm going to lay this out as best I can. If you are not familiar with Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, you are missing out on a big part of the Democratic strategy machine. This is a massively important piece. Here it is in a nutshell, and you tell me when this starts to make sense. Pick the target, Hassan Piker. Freeze the target. Focus on the target, preventing them from shifting blame and isolating them from their supporters. Personalize it. Make it personal to fuel emotion. He's an anti-Semite. He's a racist. He's a sexist. Polarize it. Force people to choose sides, often creating a with us or against us scenario. Y'all, they are using, from the Democratic power structure, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, the same things that they try to do to us all the time, but it doesn't work anymore. They are now using it on the progressive left. The Democrats are using those tactics in earnest against Hassan Piker. And I'm going to walk through the entire thing. But you tell me if that's not exactly what they are doing right now. Check this out. It's moved into CNN Broad Network Live TV. It started out at other X accounts that were just picking at him and saying this is not a good idea, ostracize this guy. Then it went to actual sitting Senate candidates on the Democratic Party. And then it went to the DNC Electoral Exchange Commission, the guy who's running the whole thing. Then it went into the media. Isn't it weird how all of those things happen in a very fast sequence? Isolate your target, demonize your target, personalize it, and then destroy your target. Okay, watch this. Here is, what's his face? Oh my God. Why can I not remember this guy's name? Wow, it'll come to me in a second. Okay, here we go. Watch this.
Our politics lead now. Now, Hassan Piker might not be a household name, at least among adults, but ask your kids. His new role as a midterm surrogate for some Democrats is proof that his political influence is expanding far beyond the streaming platform Twitch, where he has taken up residence. He is, without question, an online influencer with nearly 3 million followers. His rise as a prominent voice on the left is now driving a wedge between Democrats, and for good reason. Hassan Piker's past and present is checkered with controversial, if not outrageous, if not bigoted state comments like this one.
America deserved 9/11, dude. F it. I'm saying it. We totally put it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit.
The ultra-Orthodox Jews leaving Israel, hilarious. Okay? If they serve in the military and then they get their untrained, inbred asses shipped into southern Lebanon, again, very funny.
You know, it's Hassan Piker calling Orthodox Jews inbred. Piker has also posted comments such as these, where he unequivocally sides with Hamas, calling them the lesser of two Israels compared to the lesser of two evils compared to the government of Israel. Piker has since apologized for his comments on 9/11, but he stood by the rest. He's
Jake Tapper. That's his name. Okay, listen. Isolate your target. Personalize your target. Demonize your target. Destroy your target. Us against them. Y'all, are y'all seeing it? Let me run through the rules again. Look, this is exactly what they did to us during the Obama era of the presidency in the United States. This is exactly what they did to us. I was involved in the whole scenario. Trust me, that's what they did. Pick the target, Hassan Piker. Freeze it. Isolate it. Yep, that's pretty much. Personalize it. America deserved 9/11. The Jews are inbred, and it's all these awful things, which, by the way, I completely condemn both of those statements because it's idiotic. YouTube, I'm on record. There you go. Polarize it. Force people to choose sides. Y'all, they are using, in earnest, again I say, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals against their own.
accusing others of taking him out of context. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, the leaders of the Democratic think tank Third Way write, quote, Mr. Piker is anti-American, anti-women, anti-Western, and anti-Semitic. No Democrat should engage with him. All should seek to push him to the fringe where he belongs, unquote. Hassan Piker just recently become an issue in Michigan. It's home to a competitive three-way Democratic primary for governor. Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, one of the three candidates and a former CNN commentator, announced that Piker will join him for 2 rallies in April. His opponents quickly seized on that, slamming the decision as unacceptable, calling Piker not somebody that you should be campaigning with at a moment when there's clearly a lot of pain and trauma across our state. Our Donnie O'Sullivan caught up with Piker over the weekend at a No Kings rally in New York and asked how he fits into the Democratic Party's future.
You have become an issue within the Democratic Party yourself. Tell us about that.
I don't think I'm necessarily an issue within the Democratic Party as much as I am an issue for a lot of consultants. I don't want fascism to win in this country. I don't want Republicans to win in this country. We can argue on the methods. Maybe you think that my worldview and my values and the policies that I want politicians to represent might be different than yours. But at the end of the day, I think we have the same goals.
I should note, I misspoke. It's a Michigan Senate primary, not governor primary. Jonah Platt is with us. He's the host of Being.
All right. And I'm not going to play the whole 8-minute clip. You can go watch that. It'll be linked in the description box below. But those guys, those guests that Jake Tapper is introducing right now, they also destroy Hassan Piker. But I want you to show why, Braden, why? I can almost hear you guys. Why are you fixating on this so much? Because it is symbolism. This is not about Hassan Piker. This is about what Hassan Piker is and represents. Hassan Piker is the biggest leading voice on the psychopathic far left streaming online community. He is the one. He is the icon. He is the emblem. You take him down, you can start taking down all the other progressives who are causing you pain in your Democratic Party. He's the figurehead. They're going to go after him, and they are going to destroy him, and they are going to isolate him, and they're going to ostracize him because it's too low-hanging of a fruit, and there's too much of a benefit for them to do it. This is actively going to happen. And once Hassan Piker gets whatever happens to him, he's going to be either removed from Twitch, or he's going to go to some other obscure network, or he's just going to continue to be a thorn in the side of the Democrats. For us, one side, he's going to be ostracized and effectively canceled by the Democrats. And on the other side, he's going to continue to be a voice of which we can just pin the Democrats too. You are watching this happen. And I really hope I landed this plane. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. There's so much to cover. It's stupid. See you then.
Media is lost. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made one of the most remarkable statements of the past week at the CPAC conference.
I think Donald Trump understands the use of power better than probably any president that we've had, at least since Roosevelt and maybe in American history. I think my father and my uncle would support. I think that if they were around today, they would be making the same kind of choice that President Trump is about Iran, about Ukraine, about trying to raise up the middle class.
He also pointed out that he was raised in a Democratic Party that was very opposed to NAFTA. But the moment Trump came out against it, the Democrats flipped and supported free trade. Those two statements tell you more about what is really going on in the world than endless hours of media coverage or doom scrolling. The media is lost in the fog of war and politics. Take The Economist. They're telling you that Iran has the advantage and a month of bombing has accomplished nothing. Or the mainstream press, which is telling you that the No King's Day rallies featuring adults who dressed up as frogs and featuring drag queens represent the political mood of the nation. RFK's remarks cut through all of that. The binary choices of left versus right, war versus anti-war are being shattered as Donald Trump reasserts real American policies and liberates us from the strategic and economic straitjacket imposed since the end of World War II. These aren't new ideas. They are the oldest American ideas, suppressed and now coming back. I'm Susan Kokinda. I remember Kennedy's uncle and father. I was on the ground in California campaigning for Robert F. Kennedy Sr. when he was shot. And like his son, I've spent more than 5 decades fighting for the opportunity that Donald Trump has given us to bring those principles back to life. So if you have a sense that something very big is happening, that the world is being rearranged in ways the media can't explain, then hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons, stay in touch, and help us expand our reach. Here's what we're covering today. First, the Iran conflict and how it represents a complete break with 6 decades of imperial foreign policy. Second, the significance of J.D. Vance in the negotiations. And third, how Scott Bessent and Peter Navarro are defining the battle by name. That is, the American system versus the British system. So let's start with who is no longer in the room and why that changes everything. This week, the empire's own institutions confirmed it. Chatham House, the British foreign policy flagship think tank, published a piece with a headline that could have come from this channel. Britain's handling of the Iran war shows the limits of UK power. Chatham House also announced that the House of Lords International Relations and Defense Committee will come to Chatham House, where they will discuss the question of what they now call the not-so-special relationship and whether it can survive Trump 2.0. The empire is writing its own autopsy, and the conservative treehouse gave it the headline it deserved. British Defense Minister outlines how the UK Navy will defend the West as soon as they locate their ships. With those tools of the great game sidelined, watch what is actually happening. Right now in Islamabad, the foreign ministers of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt are sitting together for the purpose of opening up a dialogue between the United States and Iran, not managing the conflict, ending it. Britain is not in that room, neither is the EU or NATO. And when Pakistan's foreign minister announced that Iran had agreed to allow 20 more Pakistani flagged ships through the Strait of Hormuz, he addressed his statement on X directly to J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Steve Witkoff. Not London, not Brussels, to the Americans. And President Trump himself reposted it within hours. So you have a sovereign Islamic quartet with no colonial history in Iran, no Sykes-Picot baggage, and no 75 years of imperial management to answer for, trying to broker a sovereign resolution. That's a genuinely new thing, and it's happening because the old managers are no longer in the room. And it is important that you see that this is new. The dominant media narratives are written to keep you angry and impotent. Promethean action puts you on this new stage of history and gives you the in-depth analysis you need. So head on over to our website and sign up for our free newsletter. The link is in the description. Now, the empire being out of the room only matters if someone else is in it and acting like an American. And that's where Vice President J.D. Vance comes in. President Trump confirmed that Vice President Vance will be the lead negotiator for the U.S. And the well-sourced Barack Ravid at Axios gave that background. He says, Vance's seniority in the administration and his well-documented opposition to open-ended conflicts overseas, White House officials say, make him a more attractive interlocutor for the Iranians than Witkoff and Kushner. Partly for those reasons, Witkoff recommended Vance as lead negotiator. And Axios quotes another senior administration advisor saying, if the Iranians can't strike a deal with Vance, they won't get a deal. And the article makes clear that Vance has directly challenged Netanyahu on Israel's overly optimistic assessment on regime change and on its endgame goals, both of which diverge from the administration's. The neoconservative model that ran American Middle East policy for 30 years never did that. American foreign policy was just a tool in the British toolkit alongside Israeli foreign policy and Muslim Brotherhood-fostered extremism. The result? 30 years of managed conflict and no resolution. Vance is doing something different, acting as an American official representing American interests, including our interests in not fighting a forever war. Now, Vance's role is public, but it does echo something older. It echoes the role that Robert F. Kennedy Sr. played in the Cuban Missile Crisis. JFK sent his brother, the Attorney General, to conduct secret back-channel discussions with the Soviets because he knew that RFK shared his agenda, the American agenda, and that the Soviets would understand that. This is what RFK Jr. is pointing at. not a specific tactic, but a disposition. And that disposition has largely been absent since FDR last exercised American power during World War II. The end game of that war was to defeat fascism. But Roosevelt's stated intention, unfulfilled because he died before the war ended, was to free the world from British 18th century methods. Unfortunately, those methods remained intact until now, as managed conflicts kept especially the Mideast from economic development and peace. Now, the same break you're watching in Islamabad is happening simultaneously in trade and monetary policy. And this week, both Peter Navarro and Scott Bessent put a name to it. In a Politico interview, presidential trade advisor Navarro made clear that this administration is carrying out a revolution.
Our trade policy is fundamentally revamping the entire world order, in the language of the other side. Donald Trump, going back in history, channeling Alexander Hamilton, channeling McKinley, channeling Henry Clay, is basically adopting an America First policy where the protection against unfair trade makes us stronger.
So Navarro joins Trade Ambassador Jameson Greer, Treasury Secretary Bessent, and Vice President Vance in affirming that this administration's policy is that of the champions of the American system. And Navarro then made clear who represents the old order. He was asked about Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and now Canadian Prime Minister, who is currently organizing a WTO coalition to try and check Americans' trade policy. Navarro was direct. He said, "It's typical Carney behavior. We've got a problem in Great Britain and Canada with liberal Trump haters." Now, let's look at Carney's former employer, the Bank of England, which was suddenly in the news this week in a story that was overshadowed by Iran coverage and the government shutdown. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went to war with the Financial Times, the mouthpiece of the City of London, on the issue of the Bank of England. The FT published a story claiming Bessent had praised the Bank of England as a model for restructuring the Federal Reserve. And before they published it, Bessent had given them an on-the-record denial, and they ran it anyway on anonymous sources. So Bessent shot back with vehemence. By publishing this explicitly false story, the FT has officially become tabloid trash for market participants. In short, FT has literally manufactured an entirely fake policy position for me and the administration. And here's the punchline. He went on to say, "There is much to be said about the storied Bank of England, but any recreation of its operating framework on this side of the Atlantic has never been contemplated. The shameful journalists and editors at the FT are shocking in their meretriciousness, lack of standards, and general intellectual libertinism. It is the worst tradition of Fleet Street to manufacture news rather than report it." So what's really going on here? The Bank of England model is the City of London's preferred architecture for central banking. Bessent is rejecting that. He wants to narrow the Fed's mandate and return to financial instruments and credit instruments that will serve productive economic activity. When the FT tried to claim his reform agenda for their framework, he smacked it down with force. The American system revival that Navarro is pursuing in trade, that Bessent is pursuing in monetary policy, that Vance is expressing in foreign policy, it's all one thing. So whether it's the FT or Carney's rules-based order or the Chatham House autopsy, it's the same old imperial order responding to Trump's new American agenda. Which takes us back to where we started. RFK Jr. at CPAC saying his father and uncle would support what Trump is doing in Iran and in the economy. What Kennedy is saying is that there is an older tradition that defines what American power is actually for. Not managing conflict for imperial financial interests, not free trade frameworks that drain American manufacturing, not central banking architectures designed in the City of London, but policies that support sovereign national development, productive economy, and policies that are actually for peace built through construction. Hamilton named it, FDR reasserted it, JFK tried to revive it, and Trump is the first president since then to bring it back to life. That is what is invisible inside the binary choices that the old order provides you: pro-war or anti-war, free trade or socialism, Fed tightening or loosening. Every one of those binaries is a cage designed to make the American system unspeakable. Well, Promethean action speaks the American system loud and clear. And once you see the tradition, the shape of what is happening becomes obvious. And that clarity is exactly what this channel exists to provide. So help us speak it louder and support us by going over to the Promethean Action website and becoming a paying member or contributor. This has been your Monday Brief. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com.